Hello and welcome back to art. So this week we're going to be making positive and negative space insects. You can see here that I have done a positive and negative space butterfly, and I've used really contrasting colours. Now that's going to be quite important so that you can see the difference fairly easily. However, for the one I'm going to show you now, I'm going to use some materials that you can more easily find around the house. If you've got coloured paper at home, that's fantastic, you can use that. You could even just use one sheet of white paper and one where you've painted it or you've coloured it in to give it some colour. That's entirely up to you. You will need basically 2 pieces of paper that need to be the same size. You need a pair of scissors, you need a pencil, and you will also need a glue stick. Okay, so as I say, I'm going to use some paper that you can just find around the house. So this is an old envelope that I've cut to the same size as this, which is just a sheet from a newspaper. So I've deliberately chosen a page from the newspaper that's got lots of pictures on it, because it should make it a bit more exciting. If it was just writing, it might be a bit boring, but you can see that they contrast quite well. The colours aren't the same, and it is kind of important that they're the same size, so I've just held them together like that and cut them to size. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold those 2 pieces of paper in half, and this will give me my central line of symmetry. Fold it really well, open it back up again. Now, my piece of newspaper is actually going to be my background. Okay, this is the piece that I'm going to be drawing and cutting from. So I don't actually need the whole piece, I only need half of it. So I'm going to fold it again, and then I'm going to use the scissors to cut it in half. So this is a bit of an exercise in making sure you can cut well. So you can see that that covers half of the piece of newspaper. Now onto here I'm going to draw half a butterfly. That's why I've used a plain piece to go on top, because I can easily draw onto it. So I'm going to do this really gently because I don't want to end up being able to see the lines. I'm going to give it antennae. His head's a bit big, but never mind. I'm going to give his body down here, then draw one wing and draw the other wing. Okay, so that's going to be my basic outline for the butterfly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by cutting all around the outside. I'm not going to be cutting up this line. I want this whole piece here in one piece. And the other thing that's really important is you must do this cut completely in one go. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to go all the way out, get my scissors back in to there. You can slide your scissors in quite easily. So I'm not cutting up that line because I want all of this in one piece. Get my scissors back in there. Now I'm going to start to cut out the second wing. Onto there. Okay, remember we need to keep this outside piece, which is why we need to get it all in one piece. I'm going to draw a cut. This bit's a bit fiddly. It's the hardest bit actually around the head. Around there. Oops. And then I'm going to get his antennae. Now I've made his antennae a bit thicker than it would normally be, but you're going to need to do that. And then, oops, slide the scissors in there and cut back down to the centre. Now that's probably the hardest one you're going to do. So if you get to this point, you've probably already done the hardest bit. Now, if I flip this over, I have half of my butterfly there, and I have the absolute mirror image there, like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to cut shape from this top bit of wing and flip it over onto there. So This is where I'm going to just start making it up as I go along. So I'm going to cut all the way down to here. Doesn't matter that I've cut through there because I'll be gluing this all back together at the end. I'm going to cut back up to here. I'm going to leave a bigger gap at the end there. All the way around. Okay, then I can put my butterfly back in place there. And this one, now the easiest way, a student taught me this, the easiest way to make sure it's in the correct place, line up your original outline, pop the bit you've just cut out off back into the hole and take the other piece away again. And you'll have it in exactly the right place. It's easier if you glue it down at that point in time. Okay, so now you can see that I'm starting to get the mirror image on both sides. Once these are glued down, they won't stick up in any places. Okay, so now I want to get a part of this shape back into there. So what I'm going to do now is going to take this and I'm going to cut down to the middle. All the way around like that. That's one. And I'm going to do the same thing again. Okay, then I can put that piece back there, and then I can line my other two pieces here and here, but obviously I'll check to see the exact position that they need to go in. Okay, so that's my butterfly so far. Okay, I'm going to carry on cutting pieces out from the bottom wing next, and then I'll come back to you when I'm ready to start gluing it into position. So I've completely finished cutting all my shapes out now, and I've actually laid everything out onto a sheet of old wrapping paper. This is an old used piece of wrapping paper. I just wanted you to see a different example of a material that you could use. You might have, so anything you've got around the house will be absolutely fine for this, as long as you can clearly see the difference between the two pieces of paper. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to stick the pieces down onto my newspaper backing. So I'm taking this piece first. Got a glue stick. This is the easiest thing to do it with, is a glue stick. So you do need to be quite careful that you glue fairly carefully all the way around. You might need to just go over and glue some little bits down right at the end. So now I'm going to put it into the corners. This is where the pieces of paper being the same size is actually really helps with this. Line it up with the edges and make sure it's all nicely glued down. Oh, need a little bit of glue on there. Okay, so now I can take my other big piece. Much easier if you do the biggest pieces first, followed by the smallest pieces. So again, I'm going to quite thoroughly glue most of it. I am going to get gluey, that's fine. And this is where, because we've cut quite simple lines through it, it won't matter that we've cut through some of the shapes because we're going to glue it all back together again now. So now I've got to line it up in the middle. Remember, it needs to be the mirror image, so it needs to line up quite well with that. That's pretty much right. Okay, then I need to start gluing everything down and putting it all back together so it looks like it's just one piece of paper. Oh, here needs to come in a bit. So it's really important that you go around, and any bits that are just poking up, like the head and the antenna here, it's much easier to do this as you go along actually. There we go, just get a bit of glue on the bottom of there. Stick it down into position. Here I need to make sure that those two line up a bit better. might have to do. Okay, and then just need this bit glued down. Okay, then I can start getting the smaller pieces. So here I've got that piece, so I need to line it up. I'm just going to use my eyes to do this, but you can line it up yourself. I'm just going to put it into position here. You see, it goes that way up. So now I can flip that over, and I know it needs to go that way. I would have got that wrong if I hadn't checked that. Okay, and here I'm looking at all the distances. So I'm looking at the distance there and the distance here and the distance there to help me get this in the correct position. I can also use my pencil and just use that going across my line of symmetry. So I know I need to line that up. That's about right. Okay, down here a little bit. As long as you're using a glue stick, you should be able to reposition it a bit. Oh, let's put a lot back up a bit. Put it back into place. Okay, and I can just get them into place. Now I need to make sure that I'm getting the correct pieces, getting these two pieces the right way up. So I'm going to line that up like that. So that needs to be flipped over to there. I need to line that up like that. So that will need to be flipped over to there. Okay, so I'm going to carry on gluing all my pieces down into place, making sure that I'm lining it up using a pencil, making sure that I'm just checking the distances. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but try and get things in the right place so that it looks correct. And I'll come back to you when I've finished. Welcome back. So I've finished cutting out all of my shape and I've glued it all into position so that I've got my positive space butterfly and my negative space butterfly side over here, and that makes one picture. And if I have to say so myself, I think that's rather a lovely thing to have made out of an old envelope and a bit of newspaper. So I can't wait to see what you do. Try to be inventive with your materials. Have more than one go at it if you want, and you could even try doing a beetle as well as a butterfly. And then at the end, don't forget that I want you to share your work with me either on Instagram at instacabart, or you need to upload it to OneDrive and share it with me to hannah.copcut@clf.uk. Really good luck. Can't wait to see what you do.